Okay. Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Rose De La Cruz and I'm speaking on behalf of the Moorabool Environment Group. The acronym is MEG. I'm speaking to the petition which was submitted to Council over a month ago. And it reads, the old disused aqueduct runs from opposite Crossroads through to the Western Highway. This land is owned by Barwon Water and is at risk of being sold to the housing developer who's bought the 90 hectares of farmland east of the aqueduct track. Many of us want this strip of land to be saved and kept as a walking bike track for the public. The aqueduct has historical value. It was built in 1900 and it provides habitat for frogs and native grasses and all sorts of other wildlife, including probably the endangered burrowing crayfish, which has recently been discovered. The track offers a perfect opportunity for a hike and bike track. So that's the Moorabool Environment Group, and the many people, local residents who signed this petition, I think there will be well over 100 signatures now. They keep coming in daily, but the bulk of them were submitted a month ago for the council to check. We believe this walking bike track and the water channel which runs along is a valuable asset to the town and to the natural environment and should be retained as part of the new housing development plan known as Precinct 5. It should be kept, protected and not built upon. Now, as you know, this strip of land is owned by Barwon Water. Barwon Water have confirmed this in writing. And the reasons we want it saved are, firstly, the old water channel that runs beside the track. Of course, it's not used as an aqueduct now, but it does have water intermittently. It's an ephemeral water site. It's great habitat for various species of frogs. Lots of native grasses have been identified there and other significant life. The western burrowing crayfish, which was recently been identified along the Werribee River, just down the hill, is likely to be living in the water channel, but this has not yet been researched and documented. It's an endangered species and more research and studies needs to be done before any housing development starts. Now, this was the advice of the panel conducted by the Ministry of Planning last July. The panel hearing report stated that there needed to be much more research and understanding of the biodiversity of this water channel before any building starts. So we, the people who signed this petition, we strongly advise the council to support the recommendations of the panel and ensure that more research is done across 4 seasons, winter, all the 4 seasons, and that this biodiversity be properly researched and documented before the housing development starts. Secondly, the track that exists provides an excellent walking and cycling track. It's been used by Balan locals for many years, and I'm sure many of you have enjoyed a walk along that track. It provides beautiful views right across the paddocks and down to the river, the paddock that's going to be developed. It's flat and it offers a lovely, approximately half an hour walk for people of all levels of physical fitness. It could even be, with a little bit more work, a wheelchair-safe track. It's a great asset for the people who will live in the housing development in future. For these reasons, I ask the council to do all in your power to ensure this walking track and the water channel beside it are kept. I also remind council that the aqueduct was clearly defined on the Balan Framework Plan, which was the basis of C88, Planning Scheme Amendment. It's a valuable public asset. It should not be lost to housing construction.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions? Councillor Ward.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Rose. I actually did probably more reading and research on the Bland Precinct 5 plan than I would on most things. And you mentioned the panel recommending additional studies. And I took a particular interest in this when it came to council, and I'm not going to read you obviously the whole document, but it said the proposed development has generally been designed in accordance with avoid, minimise and offset principles. Retaining the Werribee River corridor is the amendment's most important ecological outcome. It's appropriate response to the sensitive river environments. The DP09 provides sufficient guidance for the further identification and mitigation of risks to ecological values, including the river environs. It includes comprehensive requirements for a biodiversity management plan, coupled with requirements construction environment management plan and an integrated water management plan. This will ensure the river values and environment are appropriately protected.
The river.
Sorry, so my question is, it's not just, it is referring to the river, but it's also referring to the whole development.
Yep.
So are you not in agreement with that?
Pardon?
Are you in disagreement
of
with
course. But they did also suggest that there's more research done, and especially since the discovery of this endangered burrowing crayfish that's been identified and studied by Melbourne water ecologists. You know, before the bulldozers go in, the panel suggests that there's more research done across 4 seasons as well. I've read their report quite thoroughly.
Councillor Berry.
Had Councillor Ward finished?
Yeah, he's finished.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr Mayor. I've just got a question for officers. Were we aware of the burrowing crayfish?
Through the chair, we did become aware of that, I think prior to the council meeting where the amendment was considered. It was raised at that meeting.
Can I have a second question, please?
Yes.
So were we looking in, were we concerned with it, probably need to ask first, has it been classed as extinct?
I think the term
not
is
extinct.
endangered, Councillor Berry. Through the chair, the matter was raised at the last council meeting where the amendment was considered for adoption, and it was adopted by council at that meeting. There is a requirement in the development plan overlay schedule that requires further work to be done in that regard, and that includes surveying in addition to a range of other species that were also identified. So in respect of that particular species being captured and surveyed, it has been satisfied through that process.
Thank you.
But the work
I
is
do-
still to be
sorry.
provided to council as part of a development plan process.
Okay, thank you. Just a second question,
Yes.
Mr Mayor. And Rose raised the question on the native grass. I would assume we would be aware of that as well.
Through the chair, that's also a matter that would need to be considered as part of any development plan process, and any further subdivision, there would need to be additional surveys done to look at those particular species, including grasslands.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Tatchell.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. I'd just like to remind everyone that it's a petition. We only accept petitions and then we comment on them and ask questions. But as part of the petition, the piece that may or may not be missing, is it for sale, or you said you had documents from Barwon Water?
Well, Barwon Water owns it at the moment.
I know you're good at answering. Give me a chance to ask. Give me a chance to ask the question, then it'll be easier. We know Barwon Water owns it, but that's part of your petition. And when you spoke to Barwon Water, did they indicate that as part of the property sale that they'd be selling it?
No, they didn't indicate that. They've just said that it's owned by Barwon Water. And this is why we've developed this petition, is to make sure that It's not sold to the developer.
I understand it. We need to know whether it was even capable of being sold. But, Mr Chair, I'll just move that we accept the petition
Yep.
as is. Thank you.
Thanks, Rose.
Thank you very much.
I move Councillor Tatchell, seconder Councillor Sullivan. All those in favour? Carried. (9.2) Petition Council to purchase the empty block at 17 to 19 Martin Street, Blackwood, to be used as open space for Blackwood community use. We have Brendan here to speak on that. Same thing, 3 minutes, green means go. Thanks, mate.
Okay, thank you, Mr Mayor, councillors, for the opportunity to speak on this issue. I'm Brendan here. I'm here representing the petitioners and the larger Blackwood community, with the support of the Blackwood Progress Association and our state and federal members, Marianne Thomas and Sam Ray. I trust you have had the opportunity to follow the story of this community campaign over the last few months, from the many letters of support through to this petition. If you aren't familiar with this campaign beyond today's petition, here's the argument in brief. Over the past decade, through the generosity of the current owner, the community has made great use of this central space for events, meetings and campaigns, picnics, and of course taking in the iconic view. This view, unique in the town centre, really is a window to our greater landscape and the newly declared National Park. For many of our visitors, this is their snapshot of our town. Now, I know many of you may think, well, Blackwood's full of views, it's true, but most of them, they're lovely, more intimate though. This is the only view that opens up to the majestic panorama of the upper Lerderderg Valley. We understand that Mirrabel Shire owns a small number of residential blocks in Blackwood and request that they use these assets to acquire this land, so valuable to the community and its tourist economy. We lodged an FOI request with governance on the 20th of Feb to identify these blocks. Haven't heard back yet. Blackwood is the sole service town in the middle of the newly declared National Park. We asked state and federal government to consider its use as a hub for the park. We met with Federal Representative Sam Ray at the block where he expressed interest in the project. Marianne Thomas, State Rep, is also interested. Now, other potential uses for the block. Blackwood has no real sizable public land suitable for a central children's playground. This parcel of land is perfect. Also, the aspect, the soil and spring water on this land combine to make it a perfect site for a community vegetable garden. As we've been using for over 10 years now, a picnicking and viewing area and a central meeting place with a town notice board. And again, a hub for the National Park with interpretive signs. Tourism Research Australia annual report advises a rising demand for nature-based sustainable and cultural tourism experiences, such as is offered by Blackwood, which is already a mecca for hikers, cyclists and nature lovers. Really is the jewel in the crown for Mirrabel. With the relaunch of the Blackwood Hotel, visitor numbers are surging. And I think Blackwood's really starting to realise its potential as a major tourist area. We urge you, please do not miss this once-off opportunity to secure this vital part of Blackwood's civic and economic future. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Bingham.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Question is of the officers. So this particular block of land, just did my research just now, $435,000. Quite clearly, council probably be out of the scope of count. Is there funding streams available? And I'm more than happy to move this, by the way.
CEO.
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Funding streams available for what's being asked?
Through the chair, not that I'm aware of, but it's something that we could explore.
I'm more than happy to move, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Tatchell.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. I'll ask the same question. Once again, we're just here to accept the petition, get a report back, and then we make comments and ask questions. But there is a question, because you've mentioned both honourable members in Sam Ray, Marianne Thomas. Did they get a petition, and did they say they'd like to pay for it?
They've said that they would like to partner with.
No, not the question, Brendan.
No,
Did they say they'd like to pay for it?
they said it would. It's unusual for them to buy small blocks of land from private owners.
It's also unusual for them to direct council as well, but anyhow, we'll deal with that when it arrives back on the report. I'll second
worries.
Councillor Bingham.
Councillor Minari.
Thank you. My question is for officers. Just in terms of the FOI request, what would be the timeframe for that?
Through the chair, thank you for your question. The minimum turnaround time by legislation for an FOI request is 30 days. Obviously, if we need to go back to the applicant to request further information or to ensure that the request is not too broad, then that stop clock stops at that point until we receive a response. So minimum of 30 days.
Thank you.
No further questions? We've got a mover in Bingham, Councillor Bingham. We've got a seconder in Councillor Tatchell. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you, mate. We have no presentations or deputations. Moving along to 11.1, Planning Scheme Amendments C, 115 more retail strategy. Consideration of submissions. We have one speaker to the item, Raf Krell. Same situation, mate. Green means go. 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you, Mayor and councillors. Raf Krell is my name. I'm a town planning consultant from Centrum Town Planning in Bendigo. I'm here supported by my colleague Peter Shaw, building designer. We represent BMS Retail Group. They trade as Champions IGA. They operate the Darley IGA supermarket and also the Mattingley IGA supermarket under the Champions banner. We're also representing Velado Trading, the owners of the Darley Plaza site. Just by means of background, Champions IGA, we believe, are the largest supermarket operator in the Shire by number of supermarkets and floor space. We've been following Council's retail strategy for some time, and by means of background, Peter and my clients have been working on the potential redevelopment of this plaza for a good number of years, probably over 15 years. We've recently been engaged with officers to overcome, I suppose, the final most significant planning hurdle, which is to do with flooding and inundation over the property. And we're further investigating that as well. So my submissions today are in relation to the officer responses. We are submission number 5 in your agenda pack. We're conscious that what you're being asked of by officers here is simply to refer outstanding or unresolved submissions to a planning panel. My clients feel strongly about this amendment and will continue to track it. We'd like to raise a number of issues with the officer response at this point in time with you. We made 5 submissions to the amendment that related to Darley Plaza, and the officer's position has been that they can't accommodate any of the changes we've requested. So I'm here just to briefly cover the main ones. As I mentioned, flooding is our key last major issue that needs to be overcome before we can lodge an application formally with council for the redevelopment of the plaza, which, by the way, would result in a development over twice as large as the existing Dali Plaza, with retail spaces, gym spaces, office spaces, in a $15 to $20 million development, so not a small development and an important one for Northern Bacchus Marsh. So just briefly, the submissions we'd like to make relate to, first of all, flooding. Secondly, the potential to investigate residential zone land that Velato Trading owns next to Dali Plaza to facilitate additional car parking associated with the redevelopment. And thirdly, some general strategies around discouraging the consolidation of activity centres in the future vision from the Meramu precinct that are incorporated in the proposed new planning scheme controls. So just briefly, we think that whilst there's a strong statement in the planning scheme to support the overall redevelopment of Dali Plaza, there needs to be some additional foundation statements in the planning scheme to help facilitate the redevelopment, and they should relate to flooding, residential zone land adjacent, and also a broader statement about Meramu and the activity centres. So we would charge you with those changes this evening.
Thank you. Councillors, any questions? No questions? Councillors, anyone to move the recommendation? Oh, you want a question?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thanks for the presentation. First of all, I live in Dali and have been going to Dali Plaza for 20 plus years. And I now drive across to West Manly to the other IGA. It's superb. So I agree there is desperate need. I suppose I'm after more information on the flooding. I understand that Melbourne Water has changed the flooding zone, and you wrote that you identifying flooding as constraint on the redevelopment include a strategy to facilitate the resolution of flooding with Melbourne Water. So I understand there is an issue with Melbourne Water. Can you explain in more detail what that issue is and what the impasse may be?
Well, yes, thank you for that question, Councillor. It's a significant issue. Effectively, current Melbourne Water position is that we would have to raise the floor level of Dali Plaza by 400 to 500 millimetres, which would result in the need to effectively demolish the existing shopping centre and stop trading, which is just not a possibility. Council officers have kindly agreed to help us in our representations with Melbourne Water to help resolve the issue. It really comes down to flood modelling work and the guidelines that Melbourne Water are adopting and implementing. They are a referral authority and effectively council will be bound by their position. So the issues are significant, but in the many decades that the plaza's operated, it's never actually gone underwater or experienced significant flooding. So there's a complicated series of issues we need to work through. We've been also talking with council about drainage upgrades in Grey Street as a potential solution. So in short, those are probably technical matters, but as you can gather, the more support we have in the planning scheme with statements that identify these issues, the greater leverage we'll have in future when we go to lodge a formal planning scheme amendment or rezoning application request. The issues will be clear, and the issues are that significant in our opinion.
Thank you. Subsequent, if I may. The second point was about the parking and traffic management, I guess. It is an abysmal setup now at the moment, isn't it, with the small lanes and the limited parking. So to hear the development may be twice as large is exciting, but with that comes the challenge of parking. And I obviously read that you have identified the adjoining zoned land in Jonathan Drive as potential future car parking. And so this question, I suppose, is for the officers. It's not necessary for the amendment to indicate a preferred location for future rezoning in Dali. I did read the retail strategy and rezoning is mentioned in other situations. I suppose, is the issue with this about the rezoning being a specific location? Because I think everyone will agree that parking will be an issue for the redevelopment. So to have an adjoining block potentially as an option to address that seems sensible. However, I'm just interested in the explanation on why the rezoning in this case isn't appropriate. To mention, sorry, rezoning.
Mr. Bezuidenhout.
Through Mr. Mayor, can I just get a bit more clarity on the question?
Thank you, Mr. Bezuidenhout. So in the retail strategy, there is discussion in other examples about rezoning. There's other commentary about rezoning, but in this case it said it's not necessary for this amendment to indicate a preferred location for future rezoning in Darley, which I understand, and the identification of sites. But I also think the fact that the applicant has, well, the respondent has highlighted an adjoining site as an option is a bonus. So I suppose I'm after more information as to why it's inappropriate to mention potential rezoning of an adjoining property as a solution to the parking problems.
Thank you. Through Mr. Mayor, I just want to clarify, this is a strategy, it's not an implementation document. So obviously don't go into the level of detail where it resolves technical issues or where it basically rezones land. It is setting out a hierarchy of shopping hierarchy, retail hierarchy. It also sets out a framework for future decision making. So that level of detail, although it's referenced, the strategy won't deal with that specific level of detail.
Councillor Tatchell.
I suppose I'm ever careful that we don't drift too far off what's in front of us and we get into too much minutiae on the basis that it is a strategy. But I think the points being made here to emphasise the consideration that's been brought forward by RAF and taken into consideration within that strategy. So just to bring us back on track, and then eventually we end up with a process that we can all work with. So whilst I appreciate the emphasis that's been put on this, I think we still need to stick within the realms of what's in front of us before we drift too far away. But I'll move what's in front of us anyway.
Questions, councillors? Thank you.
Thank you.
Have we got a seconder? Councillor Sullivan?
Have we got another speaker? Is it? No.
No. For the next item? There's two for the next item. Thanks, Mayor. All in favour? Carried. (11.2) Planning Scheme Amendments C103 Moore Hopeton Park North adoption. We have two speakers on this. The first one is Claire Missy.
Hi, thank you again for the opportunity to speak. Obviously, there's probably not much point in reiterating what I've already done in my last two submissions. So there's not a lot more to say. But recently, I have been informed that one of the Hopeton Park residents has discovered a brush-tail phascogale, which is like a small little marsupial possum. It is listed as a threatened vulnerable species. Unfortunately, it was found deceased on their property, but that doesn't mean that there might be more out there. I think that this sighting shows how important it is to consider putting some wildlife corridors and some protected reserve areas in this development if it is to go ahead. I spoke to the resident that spotted this creature this morning, and they were going to report it to council today and to the DEECA as well. I apologise, I'm unsure whether that's happened today or not, but hopefully you guys did receive an email, but I'm not sure. But I just want you to be aware that this creature has been spotted. and there could be hopefully an investigation through the DECA to find out some more information regarding if it is a suitable environment for the marsupial to live in. And that's about all I need to say, because everything else has already been said in my last two submissions.
Thank you. Councillors, any questions? Thank you.
Thanks.
Ross Costa.
Thank you, councillors.
Thank you.
Hello, Mayor, council officers and councillors. Thanks for your time this evening. If I can just address the previous submission. There's been a planning panel and there's been about half a dozen different ecological assessments for the subject land. The majority of the land, 98% of it, is cropped. All land that has been identified containing native vegetation is being protected in conservation reserves. So you can have confidence that there is no impact from a biodiversity point of view. I'm the proponent for the planning scheme amendment. This land's been identified for over 8 years for future residential. Since this time, we've worked tirelessly with council and all relevant referral authorities, spent over $1 million in 21 different consultant reports in investigating the subject land for residential. All statutory authorities have been consulted, including Melbourne Water, Western Water, DECA, the CFA, Department of Transport, and they're all supportive of the amendment. We've had a planning panel, as I've discussed, and the independent panel considered all submissions and objections received and recommended that the matter be adopted by council and sent to the minister for approval. All issues raised by objectors were considered and ruled upon. On page 26 of the panel report, the panel found that the amendment will deliver a net community benefit. In this regard, we are providing over $2.5 million of cash to council for delivery of community infrastructure. We are also gifting council 1 acre of land for this infrastructure to be built on. We're also constructing $3 million of active open space, including a football oval, tennis court, half basketball court, BMX pump track, toilets and barbecues. We're providing $200,000 in cash for an off-site netball court. We're going to provide Hopeton Park's first retail facility, likely to include a cafe and a general store. And we are protecting in perpetuity all areas of native vegetation with conservation reserves and environmental sensitive overlays. All of the facilities that I've just mentioned are not only for the new residents, but for the existing residents of Hopeton Park, who currently have to travel significant distances to access these services. The panel also found that the large lot sizes proposed at Hopeton Park will protect the existing character of the community. Councillors, I urge you to support the recommendation before you tonight.
Thank you. Councillors, any questions? Councillor Bingham.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I can see that the applicant has committed to upgrading the intersection of Hopeton Park Road, Western Freeway.
Yes.
My question is just in relation to the Hopeton Park Road entire section up into the roundabout. Was that ever discussed to upgrade that?
Mate?
Yeah.
Yep. So we did geotechnical testing, pavement testing of Hopeton Park Road in the vicinity of the subject land. And that geotechnical testing said that pavement has a lifespan of over 20 years. That was submitted to the council officers. Council officers are happy with that it doesn't need to be upgraded. And indeed, the intent is that Hopeton Park Road is left as a rural type road to protect the character of Hopeton Park.
Okay, so I just got a subsequent to that, Mr Mayor. So obviously accessing this land.
Yes.
Is there going to be widening of that road?
Yes,
to
there'll be-
create turning lanes?
Yes, correct. There'll be localised widening. There's two, I guess, entry and exits. One's going to connect to the existing roundabout to the south, and there'll be a new connection to the north. At that connection, there'll be a channel turning lane for right cars turning into the new development.
You happy with that? Councillors, any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, mate. We have a recommendation, councillors. Would you like to have someone to move it? Councillor Tatchell. Seconder, Councillor Ward. All in favour? Carried. (11.3) Swimming pool and spa safety barrier inspection services update. Are there any questions, councillors? Do I have a mover for that recommendation? Councillor Tatchell. Seconder, Councillor Keogh. All in favour? Carried. (12.1) Indoor aquatic facility concept designs. Are there any questions, councillors? Councillor Tatchell.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. I note that this is only for a year, so I just want to clarify that we are going to get the funding on this. I mean, it just, the controversy, of course, is that everyone has to get their picture taken with the shovel. What I'd like to see is a picture with the cheque. So, and then for us to have to go back to a grant process, it always makes me nervous because having endured about 13 years of broken promises on this swimming pool, I'd rather feel a little bit more secure if we're going to commit $15 million of ratepayers' money into a pond. So that may never occur.
I'll take that. CEO. No, we passed that already. 11.3 is done. CEO. We've passed 11.3.
Yeah, through the chair, sorry, I was getting a bit confused there. As councillors are aware, we've received $10 million from the state government, which is allocated. So we have been informed that that has been set aside as part of the state government, so that doesn't have to go through another process. And then we received a $15 million, I just have to remember the amount, from the Honourable Sam Ray as part of an election commitment, I think. And as part of that process, we do have to submit an application, which is standard process. And as part of that process, they are requiring certain milestones and certain details, and that's what this concept design will do, is to close out that application. So it's the tail wagging the dog a little bit, but historically, when you do get an election, you still have to put in an application. It's just a process with the department, but it's usually straightforward, but you never know.
Yeah, Councillor Tatchell.
So based on historical delays in terms of these funding processes, is there a ceiling on this? Because this is only guaranteeing it for 1 year. Are we going to be back here in another year with a different amount of money if there's not a decision by the federal grants people? So, I mean, in this journey, this pool has moved from $9 million in the first instance, where we waited and were promised. Then we went to 25 million. We waited, we were promised. We got into 40 million, we waited, we promised. Now we're at 50. But this is the first time we've had to quantify it over a year. And so I just want to feel, I accept what you're saying, Mr. Say, it's a horrendous process. It really is. There really is a tail wagging the dog. But I'm not even sure the dog knows what it's doing when you are wagging it. But so my question is, are we actually comfortable that like Sam Ray was promising a block of land 10 minutes ago, that he has no jurisdiction over. God knows what he's going to give us next. But realistically, do you think this is actually going to happen?
CEO.
Which are too hard, Mr.
So
CEO.
there's probably two parts to that question. I think the first part is to do with the quantum. So we have done our QS, and the quantum is coming in where we think it should. So we've been very clear with this project is we're building a project to a budget, not a project to a dream. So we've been very clear on that. And that has facilitated design works and redesign works because, as you can imagine, costs have escalated since this pool has commenced, and the officers in that have worked and redesigned to get it to where the QS is. There's no certainties in life, councillors, but that's what the data is telling us. The reason for the 12-month time frame is really around that the QS gives you a level of security for 12 months. Really, you should be going and doing your QS again if you haven't locked something in within that 12 months because prices can move. So that's why the 12 months is there. We're comfortable that should council receive all of the money that it has been promised, which is the 10 million and the 15 million, 25, sorry, I knew there was probably a chance I was wrong on that one. Our view is that we will be able to deliver it for the 50 million. What we will be doing though is managing to budget continually through the project. So there's items in there that are discretionary that if the budget begins to move, those items will be removed.
I just didn't want my board shorts to go out of style, you know.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. My question was not dissimilar to Councillor Tatchell. So how long, basically, is this funding from the government committed for?
Through the chair, the former premier promised the 10 million would be there forever until we're ready. So I can only go with that one, and that was an announcement that was made on the site. And within the state or the federal 25 million, that process really only opened for us to put the application in. So even though people think that promise was made at the election, which is a while ago now, the actual process to actually commence the application didn't commence until just before Christmas. I'd get the exact date for you. So we're moving fairly rapidly through this, and I think what the department, in the same way as Councillor Tatchell is saying, I think what the federal government are saying is they want a form of certainty that is going to proceed before they guarantee, and I think this is probably the guarantee that they're seeking.
Supplementary question, if I may.
Councillor Sullivan.
So when will we expect to test the market?
Through the chair, we're going through that process at the moment as to what is the best way to test the market. So we're actually informally testing the market as we speak, because there's probably 4 builders in the state that can do this. So we're probably in the phase of just having informal conversations. Where we will be to formally test the market will probably be around October-ish, November-ish is when we can probably be in a position to formally test the market.
Sorry, third question, if I may.
Councillor Sullivan.
So if, as a result of testing the market, we find that that figure that you've floated, use a pun, doesn't actually suffice, what happens then?
Through the chair, that's when our philosophy has been very clear on this. We are managing to a budget. That was where we will come back, and there's elements in the design that will probably need to be sacrificed.
Okay. I remind the CEO said there's no certainties in life. As Napoleon's sister-in-law said, there are 2, death and taxes. So,
Thank you, Councillor Sullivan. Councillor Bingham.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I get that it's a process and most likely going to obviously be successful, but my question is just on the theme of it all. So when should we get an answer whether or not we're successful or not in this grant? So we have it in black and white. Here it is.
CEO.
Through the chair, I would expect probably by the middle of March sometime, but again, the wheels of federal government can turn very quickly or they can turn very slowly. I think it's just a process we need to go through. We need to make sure we've given them all of the documentation they need, and then they will come back to us with that information.
Councillor Tatchell?
Just checking to see if any of them are involved with the CFMEU, because then we'd really get paid then, because they'll have to lose change. So, just a thought.
Moving along, any further questions, councillors? Okay, we have a recommendation. Can I have a mover for that? Councillor Ward. A seconder? Councillor Bingham. All in favour? Carried. (12.2) Advisory Committees of Council reports. Can I have questions, councillors? Councillor Ward.
I'm happy to move. I beg your pardon. I actually
You got a
have
question?
for 12.3, so I won't move that one.
Second, you going second, or you got a question, Councillor Bingham?
I'll second.
You got a question? Thank you. Green means go.
Got buttons going everywhere. It's a complicated place. My question is, we put people in these committee positions as chairs, but we seem to be flooding the committees with councillors. These are driven by the public. They're their committees. We simply chair them. What I'm concerned about is that are we undermining the chair by turning up with so many councillors at all these events? And what is the protocol here for being the chair of a committee? If it is only one, I accept that there'll be a proxy. I would have thought that only one should turn up to chair it.
Do you want to answer that?
It's a governance question.
Governance.
Through the chair, we've actually had situations where multiple councillors have attended meetings, and I've had to clarify situations where it's the delegate that's appointed by council that has voting rights and is able to participate. Any councillor can attend any meeting as an observer, but the observer status means that they have no voting rights and not able to participate. So I've clarified that with councillors who have asked me that very question.
Councillor Tatchell.
My concern is that in appreciation of the mayor's role, if the mayor turns up at any of these committee meetings, there is an assumption by the committee that regardless of who the chair is, the mayor would take precedent. And that hasn't been clarified when the committee works. That hasn't been clarified. Thank you.
Councillor Freeman.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We are on 12.2, aren't we?
12.2, yeah.
Yes, well, I'm on the Mirrabul Health and Wellbeing Advisory Committee, but I'm not the chair on that. That is chaired by a council officer for that one. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we have a mover and we have a seconder. All those in favour of the recommendation? Carried. (12.3) Community Assets Committee reports. Councillors, any questions? Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm happy to move it, but I do have a question. I was recently invited by the committee down there with a number of other councillors just to do a walkthrough and look at the building, and I note from the minutes that Officer Jeffrey attended the recent meetings. We're invited in to have a look at the issues with the cracking of the walls and the destabilisation of the building. I was wondering if Mr Jeffrey could give us an update on the remedial works plan to protect that historic asset, please.
Mr Jeffrey.
Through you, Mr Mayor, there's a few things we're working on in relation to that. We're currently documenting a underpinning project to establish some footings and stabilise the wall long term. In the interim, we're monitoring the wall and any movement that is occurring with the wall, and I guess further to that, we've noticed there has been some recent movement in the wall, and we're currently making arrangements to prop up the wall in the interim until we undertake the underpinning project.
All right. Any further? Councillor Kerr? Yes, you can second it. We have Councillor Ward, Councillor Kerr, second. Everyone in favour? Carried. .4 Draft the Land Recreation Reserve Master Plan. Councillors, any questions?
I'll move the recommendation, sorry.
Thank you. Councillor Sullivan moves it. Anyone second? Councillor Bingham. All those in favour? Carried. 13.1 Councillor Social Media Policy Update. Any questions, councillors? Guess I want to move the recommendation.
Just have a question, if I may.
Yep. Councillor Sullivan.
I'll just refer you to page 225 of our agenda. Hang on, I'll find it before I do. And this, I know this is to do with the social media policy, but 9.3, it says councillors should not solicit customer requests or otherwise encourage members of the public to bypass council's official communication channels. Does that have implication for other areas of council's dealings? What's this?
Through the chair, this policy is specific around social media, so it's about social media channels. I'd need to take on notice whether there are other instances. Our preference is that we do use appropriate council channels. However, I'd need to take that question further on notice if you need more information.
Yeah, it's just that I know this is specific to media, social media policy. However, the wording was such that it could have implications for broader council interaction with community. So I'd like to have that sort of assessed. Thank you.
No worries. Mr Jackson. Councillor Tatchell.
I suppose that always brings forward another question, doesn't it? That if a council was at an event or a function and was in a discussion and then the person that they were talking to or the group put the councillor on social media, I think that sort of answers that really the councillor doesn't have any control, which it's a bit of a concern. And the second question to that is if a councillor is at an event or at a place that requires something, or it's in the process of committing to some sort of example would be a block of land in Blackwood, say, for example, where a councillor stood out the front and says, I support this. Does that fit within that realm if it hits Facebook, you know, or any of the other places around the Shire?
I see, yeah.
Through the chair, I understand where the council is going, and I will have to take it away because I think the intent of the policy is that within the social media framework is that people won't be contacting the councillors directly on their social media, raising requests, and then expecting us to have it in the system and answer it. So that is the intent. Now, maybe we haven't done it as well as we could have, but the intent is that we have a system that's designed that for a CRMS now, and then that information would come in through that channel and not be coming in through multiple different channels. So I'm happy to take that on notice and have a look at the wording on it to make sure that intent is actually what the reflection is.
Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I guess it was actually taking it to another level, that it might have implications for other areas of council interaction with community. That's all. Thank you.
Any further questions? Councillors, can I have someone to move the recommendation? Councillor Minari. Seconder. Councillor Tatchell. All those in favour? Carried. December 2025 Quarterly Financial Report. Councillors, any questions?
You have one.
Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It's good to be back.
Welcome back, mate.
Thank you. Just on page 45 of our report, the second dot point, middle page, it says year-to-date operating expenses unfavourable due to other expenses, nearly $450,000. This is mainly due to unbudgeted expenditure of illegal dumping. Okay. So where does the money come for that illegal dumping within council resources?
CEO.
Through the chair. So if you remember, the government set up a scheme that we've put our application in for, so we haven't received notification on that yet, whereby 50%, so it's only 50% of the total cost of those kind of events can be claimed back. And we lobbied quite extensively, so the workshop that this council put on was probably a large catalyst for that getting created. The other 50% we will have to find as officers across the board to balance the books. So it is an extra cost that's hit the organisation, and it is unbudgeted. 50% of it we are hopeful that we will be getting reimbursed on, but we are working to try and identify where we can find the other 50%.
So that other 50% wouldn't come out of the waste charge?
No, it can't. In this year, no, it can't. We have to go in from an efficiency point of view and see where we can actually locate it.
Thank you. Councillor Tatchell.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. I know we're looking at the quarterly budget to December, and of course over the last 2 days we've had some probably, well, it's dramatic anyway, the situation in Iran in terms of fuel supply, and in terms of where our economy is likely to spike over, probably we're not going to know for a couple of months, and depending how long the conflict goes on for, it could be a long-term problem which will have a fairly dramatic effect on our running costs, and it may have a dramatic effect all over in terms of the works we get done and materials, and because the petrochemical industry is still highly volatile in terms of its production of manufacturing. So what I'm saying is, in the next quarterly report, we're certainly going to need some form of buffer. We've already seen some panicking today where the reality is that it's usually 14 to 20 days before there's a true fluctuation in terms of the oil price and the bowser. The fact that we live in a rural sector is going to have a dramatic effect for people, considering that 68% of our people travel outside the Shire. And there's absolutely no doubt that the government is going to have to put a fuel levy on the train as these fuel prices go up. The freight prices go up, and of course people's economies, personal economies are affected dramatically. So what I'm suggesting is, I know we're in the middle of a budget, but I think we need to at least consider a mini budget within that, once we get a clearer picture or an understanding of where our rural economy will be. There's absolutely no doubt that that war is not going to finish tomorrow, and it's certainly going to escalate based on what's happened today. So I suppose I'm forewarning, we're about to do a traditional budget, and we've done this before where we allow for an exceptional mini budget in terms of crisis, fiscal crisis. So I don't know whether we need that in the motion, because we can't do an urgent motion because we're missing a councillor, but I think it's apt that we actually get on top of this and actually have something in train, because I think there's going to be a lot of rework being done. And I know tonight we actually have a confidential item that will probably be severely affected in process, where we may have to source externally from other places. There's a question in there somewhere.
Yeah, no, and I'm happy to answer the question. I thought that was there. Through the chair. So So this is something we're monitoring, and for those people that aren't aware, OPEC have said that they will increase production by 20%. Now they still have to get it through the Straits, so there is an issue there that if the ships aren't protected going through the Straits, there's an issue with insurance on those ships, as you can imagine, and therefore you'll have a knock-on effect. So we are monitoring it. Now, if OPEC does increase production by 20%, you probably won't get the spike, that provided they can get the oil moving through the I can't remember the name of the channel, but the channel. And I think from our point of view, it is a little bit of a wait and see, but we do understand where our dependencies are regarding certain things. So it is something that we will be watching very closely, as I'm sure everybody will be. But look, I think I mentioned it to the Mayor last week. I drove past 2 petrol stations last week before any of this happened, and there was a 70-cent difference in petrol between the 2 petrol stations, and there was nothing happening. So I think there's probably a little bit of gouging and a few other bits and pieces going on here. So that's my soapbox moment on petrol prices.
Councillor Tatchell.
Ships was blown up this afternoon, tried to leave, and there's been an order to restrain any further ships from coming out with oil, just as another point. But in terms of the costs of fuel and putting aside that the next few days is probably gouging based on the pattern of how the crude oil price goes up and by the time it hits the bowser. And my point, I suppose, is that we're not really going to know for probably another 3 weeks how sharp this is going to spike. And I could be indicative. I buy about 40,000 litres a week, sometimes 50,000 litres a week, and we went up 20 cents today, which has a dramatic effect on your running costs because we buy it in bulk. So I'm suggesting that the council's going to have exactly the same problem when they get their next fuel order. And then what will happen is the Conservatives within the fuel industry, and I suppose H would know this better than most, that they would probably put a buffer in there and increase the cost on the basis that they may run out of fuel. Now, today it's reported that we had 34 days of diesel left in this country. Singapore have shut off their harbour. Shell has got nothing in the Long Bay through the cracker, which would indicate to me that there'll be some preferential treatment in terms of how the diesel is distributed, which will include local government, hopefully. So I suppose I bring this up because I think this is relevant because we've just done quarterly financial. I think we're going to have some really dramatic changes over the next month, and it may, we've been here before, we've done it before, and I think we just need to be prepared for it because I think it will hit, and it'll hit a lot of our residents too that are relying on these, that are budgeting for fuel costs, that we're just going to be able to be a little bit tolerant when they're bringing their rates in, and our farms as well that use a lot of fuel on the farm. So I'm just flagging, I suppose. It couldn't have been done in urgent business, so yeah. My apologies, Mr Mayor.
You're fine, mate.
For being indulgent.
Councillor Sullivan.
I wanted to add to what Councillor Tatchell said. My understanding is we've only got 34 days of diesel. Some of that's on water. It's not actually in Australia. It's not here. So just bear that in mind. Thank you.
All right. Any further questions? Can I get someone to move that recommendation? Councillor Kerr. Councillor Thatchell, seconder. All those in favour? Carried. 14.1, response to notice of motion number 341, introduction of green waste bins to Gordon, Mount Edgerton, Mooneyong, Greendale, Dales Creek and Blackwood. Councillors, are there any questions? Councillor Sullivan.
I have a question. I have no problem with the recommendation, Mr Mayor, but do we have an approximate cost, what this cost us to compile this information and report? To the nearest thousand, it'd be fine.
Mr Jeffries.
Through you, Mr Mayor, it was all done in-house, so it's basically officer time that was involved, but the real cost would be postage and return envelope stamps, so minimal, $1,000 or $2,000 at the most.
Yeah, sorry, but officers' time still costs because they're deflected from other work.
Yeah, I wouldn't have that figure on me right now.
Okay, I'd be very interested. So probably double, probably 4 grand, 4 or 5.
And a bit more.
And a bit more, okay. And this is a bidding war, actually. Thank you.
All right. Any further questions? Anyone to move it? Bingham? Councillor Bingham? Councillor Sutherland? All those in favour? Carried. (14.2) Curbside waste and resource recovery policy adoption. Councillors, any questions? You want a question, Councillor Sullivan? No, you're right, mate.
Yeah, no, I'll let them move my
You going to oppose? Can I get a mover for that? Yeah, Councillor Bingham.
Yeah, thank you. Just in terms of, obviously, part of the recommendation, number 3, talked about deferring the rollout of the glass curbside bin service. How late can we defer that? When does the mandatory
Mr. Jeffries.
timeline kick in?
Excuse me, through you, Mr. Mayor. I guess you can defer it indefinitely. As part of the draft waste standards, they are mandating these services to commence by July 2027. But in lieu of that service standard being adopted by the government, our time to implement that would push beyond July 2027 if they do adopt the standards.
Councillors, anyone to move that? Councillor Ward. The seconder? Councillor Kerr. Any objections?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Sullivan?
Well, the move has to speak first.
Councillor Ward.
Mr. Mayor, I'll be brief. The state government has brought in as a mandated waste and resource recovery policy. What we're doing here is merely going into line with that. We're offering an optional opt-in service. I think what has been put in this policy about the deferral of the proposed glass collection, I personally don't think the glass curbside bins are needed now that the container deposit scheme seems to be working so well. So basically the curbside waste and recovery policy is in line with the state legislation and allows those that want to opt in for additional services to do so. So I'm certainly in favour of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I note there are 3 points to the recommendation. 2 and 3 I have no problem with. 1 is what I have the problem with. And I would just direct you to, we actually have a waste charge which we apply to every rateable property in the Shire. Properties are done, and the collection of that monies goes to things which I would see do not fit within the realm of waste management. I don't think that people should have to pay for the sweeping of the streets and what have you. I don't see that as relevant. We slate the state and federal government for cost shifting because they put it on to us. What we're doing is cost shifting. This is cost shifting. Some of the areas that I would determine are core council business, now we're shifted on because charges do not apply in the rates they're exempt from the rate cap. So we've loaded up the charges to fit other areas of council activities, and yet we have the cheek, and rightly so, to slate the state and federal governments for cost shifting, and this is internal cost shifting, Mr. Mayor. So it goes against the grain when we're loading up the waste charge on things which I don't see have a direct correlation between the person who pays and the service that's provided. The bin pickups and all that, yep, there's a direct relationship between you pick up your bin, you pay for the charge, you're recycling, fine. But I don't see that as being equitable. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sullivan. Councillor Kerr, you want to speak on that? For?
No,
Would anyone like to speak for or against? Councillor Tatchell.
Yeah, I'll speak against. I won't argue that council wants legislation. So, exactly right. The issue at the end of the day is that it's city-centric legislation. That we continually have to follow events of all of this stuff, and a lot of it's not equitable or relevant to rural sectors. And Councillor Sullivan makes a good point. Many years ago when the rate cap came in, even though we really probably didn't understand the ramifications of the rate cap, we didn't understand, at the time, it said that 1% above CPI, or the rural CPI is different to, rural CPI is different to the city CPI. And Councillor Sullivan makes the point that the fees and charges aren't capped. But when the legislation has been driven by a 2-to-1 vote out of the city, and we're left with the remnants of that, not only are we disadvantaged by either way, whether we go with the rate cap on the costs, or we simply wear them. And the fact is that when you're in a diverse shire like this, that there is a lack of liquidity within the shire, because there's a lot of payments that are being made that really are not relevant to the people. And we are in the people business. You can't take anything else away. We're in the people business. And unfortunately, the more legislation that's made out of Spring Street that's tainted by the city-centric vote of 2-to-1, the more we're going to be faced with this dire position where we're continually having to cost shift ourselves when we're complaining about others cost shifting. And it really needs to be overhauled. And I don't think there's a person in this room that would agree that rate capping has been a success based on that. There are parts of it that are probably good marketing, but in terms of where we end up in the bush, the problem gets worse the further you go west. They're dramatically affected by a load of gobbledygook out of Spring Street that's tainted by arguments of people that are probably fairly irrelevant to us in the rural sector. So no, I can't agree. I'm going to vote for it, by the way, but I am going to protest against it. So there you go.
Thank you, Councillor Tatchell. Councillor Kerr.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. A question, probably to the CEO. Following Councillor Sullivan's cost sharing, the way it was described, if that cost sharing was removed and the costs were put on the users, how much will that change our system?
CEO.
Through the chair, I'd have to get that number for you. We did have it at the budget session, but I just can't remember off the top of my head. Yeah, I'd have to get that number. I don't have it at the moment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Bingham.
Mr Mayor, just who's the seconder on this?
Councillor Keogh.
I would have liked the seconder's input. Is the seconder going to debate it?
Doesn't. No. That's fine. Councillor Ward, to wrap it up.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I suppose Mirrabul Shire Council's curbside waste and resource recovery policy is set to be cost neutral. It means that the money that is spent incurring the cost of waste recovery is cost neutral to council. Unfortunately, the biggest portion of those costs is the landfill levy, which is set by the state government. So that's well and truly outside of our control. But I remind my colleagues that the guidelines that Mirrabul Shire follow in determining what is waste collection fees and collection of waste services and so on is consistent and was signed off by the Essential Services Commission guidelines several years ago and is consistent with that practice across many states. I understand my colleagues' philosophy about those people that don't have their streets swept as often as the others could possibly argue they should pay a lesser fee, but if you're going to take that argument to the nth degree, you would say that the portion of your shire where 70% of the rates collected should receive 70% of the revenue spent, but we're not going to do that. We're a single shire where we actually have to understand that our revenues and our costs are shared where there's need. So I understand the concern, but my point is that the curbside waste and resource recovery policy is consistent with the Essential Services Commission guidelines, was signed off by them, and our current cost recovery model ensures that our waste service fees are collected equitably, apart from those opt-in services, and are cost neutral to council. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have a mover in Councillor Ward, a seconder in Councillor Keogh. All those in favour? So do I get to vote twice?
No, you've got a casting vote, but have you voted?
All those against? So now I have the casting vote. Carried.
You've got to declare that you've
Using the casting vote.
Sorry, excuse me.
Councillors, just to clarify, Councillor Berry on her side has dropped out of the meeting, so we wouldn't have the situation if Councillor Berry was here. With 8 councillors, we had 4 votes in favour, 4 against. The Mayor has a casting vote. And to clarify for the Mayor, the Mayor has decided to use his casting vote in favour.
14.3, Balan Integrated Transport Strategy Adoption. Councillors, are there any questions? Can I have a mover for that? A seconder? All those in favour? Carried. (14.4) Capital Improvement Program Quarterly Report, December 2025. Are there any questions, councillors? Councillor Bingham? Thank you. A seconder? Keogh. Councillor Keogh. All those in favour? Carried. We have no other reports. Notices of motion. 16.1, notices of motion. 349, reports on Blue Tree Project to promote mental health awareness. Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This is an issue that I'm very passionate about. I think we all know, unfortunately, someone that has been lost to suicide. And whilst travelling recently, I saw in the middle of a country town a blue tree. So naturally I asked the question, why is that tree blue? And then I learned about it, and it was to recognise the tragic passing of a young boy lost to suicide. I've been to some mental health forums where they've actually highlighted that, you know, there's 9 suicides in Australia per day. And males account for 76% of those suicides because we are shit-house at asking for help. And the median age of death by suicide is 46. So when I saw the Blue Tree Project, I thought, what a wonderful initiative, because naturally I asked the question and many people asked the question. And if we were able to establish a blue tree somewhere in the Shire that asks people save that very question and potentially saves one life, then I think it's a fantastic initiative. I'm not suggesting council funds it. I'm suggesting that council explores opportunities to support it, and that may be a local artist who wants to do it himself or herself, or apply for art grants to do so. I just think it is something that locally, you know, I know of several suicides in Bacchus Marsh in recent years, and it's something that just breaks your heart every time you see about it. So I'm passionate about this, and I would like to see my colleagues support this initiative to investigate opportunities for a blue tree to be established in Bacchus Marsh, Bland, potentially anywhere else in the Shire to promote mental health awareness. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Get someone to second that. Councillor Freeman. Any objections? Councillor Sullivan. Councillor Ward.
Look, I'm not going to add to my earlier comments. I'll just do the wrap up. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Not wishing to belittle the initiative that Councillor Ward is proposing, nor, and I think he rightly has said, it has touched a lot of people, a lot of families, this particular issue. But I think it's sort of, to me, it presumes that Moorabool Shire doesn't sort of care or do much in this space. I looked up our health and wellbeing plan 25-29, which was virtually passed not that long ago. There are 3 pages in there, 3 pages of policies that Moorabool Shire has with respect to mental health and resilience, the culture and inclusion, to sort of make sure that it's a broader issue than just the individual, and being active, eating healthy food, prevention violence in community strategy, and then it goes on to mental health and resilience. So we have a page there talks about services, young people, and also the groups that council would engage with in this, not just council itself, the partnering groups that are there as well. And that goes on for 2 pages. And I think, and I understand where Councillor Ward is coming from, my colleague, but I just sort of think it implies that Moorabool Shire has done nothing here. And that's not correct. They've done a lot. There's a lot of work being done in this space, and people care to look at the health and wellbeing plan. They would see all that information there, and I think we do stuff. We do. And I just don't think this is, I find it sort of a bit belittling to all the work that council has done. Thank you.
Councillor Freeman.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I agree Moorabool are doing a lot in it, but I also know about that blue tree. There's one on the turn-off to Wood End, and I wondered why there was a blue tree. I strongly support this notice of motion as put forward by Councillor Ward, requesting a report on the feasibility of establishing 1 or more blue trees within our Shire. Tonight, we're not simply discussing a painted tree, we are discussing the wellbeing of our community and the quiet struggles that too often go unseen. As Councillor Ward said, in 2024, 3,307 Australians died by suicide, around 9 people every single day. Suicide remains the leading cause of death for Australians aged 15 to 44. The median age of death is just 46. Behind every one of those figures is a person who was loved, a family left with unanswered questions, a community that wonders what more could have been done. These are not abstract statistics. They represent lost sons, daughters, parents, friends, workmates and neighbours, and an empty chair at the table. The Blue Tree Project began after the tragic loss of Jaden White, a much-loved son, brother and friend. From that loss came a simple but powerful idea. Paint a tree blue so that people ask, why is that tree blue? Because sometimes the hardest conversations begin with a simple question. This motion is not about grandstanding, it's about starting conversations. A blue tree is a simple but powerful symbol that says in Moorabool it's okay to talk about mental health. I have worked in the community sector for over 40 years, and during that time I have supported and assessed many individuals during periods of significant distress. At times, that has required honest and direct conversations about their safety and well-being. Those moments are never easy. There is often hesitation, vulnerability, and fear of being judged. But experience has consistently shown me this: when we create space for open conversation, people feel less alone. And feeling less alone can be the first step towards seeking help. Silence reinforces isolation. Conversation creates connection. We know that males account for more than 3/4 of suicide deaths in Australia. We know regional communities can face additional barriers to support. And we know stigma remains a significant obstacle to early help seeking. Research consistently tells us that stigma and silence are major barriers and that early intervention is critical. Cultural change does not happen overnight, but it does begin with visible signals, with leadership that says this issue deserves attention. Council rightly invests in physical infrastructure, roads, recreation facilities and community buildings. And I'll point out there's 2 grants that have recently been approved for mental health issues. But social infrastructure and community wellbeing are equally important to the long-term resilience of our shire. Supporting mental wellbeing is just as vital to a thriving community. Given the rural and regional nature of parts of our municipality, we are well aware that access to services can sometimes be limited. Initiatives that foster awareness and connection can play a particularly important role in communities like ours. This proposal aligns with our broader commitment to community wellbeing and social inclusion. It is symbolic, yes, but symbols can be powerful. They can shift culture, they can reduce stigma, and they can, quite literally, save lives. Importantly tonight, we are not committing to installation. We are requesting a feasibility report. That report would consider appropriate locations, cost implications, maintenance requirements, community consultation and potential partnership. That is responsible governance. If this initiative prompts a parent to check in with their teenager, if it encourages a friend to reach out to someone who seems withdrawn, if it reassures just one person that support is available, then it has value. Mental health is not a political issue. It is a human issue, a community issue. A blue tree would be a visible demonstration that mental health matters in Moorabool, that this is a community where people are encouraged to speak, to listen and to support one another. I commend Councillor Ward for bringing this forward, and I commend the motion to Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Minari.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm obviously going to sound pretty blunt but raw on this. And my argument is not about the actual Blue Tree project. I think the Blue Tree project is wonderful. But as a councillor, I need to think about what community come to me for. What do they come to me for most? And we all know it's the 3 Rs. But so that is why I'm not comfortable with this notice of motion, and I'll explain myself a bit more than that. I'm not obviously protected from mental health. I work every day in my life to keep loved ones of mine alive. But in terms of this, I truly believe that council should support a community group in this space to feed this to the community. It's a wonderful project, but if council does everything, there's going to be more complaints about roads, rates and rubbish. It's as simple as that. I have attended many mental health sessions that council has put on over the years, and we do a good job of it, and councils do. But we can't do everything. And I know that sounds really blunt, but we can't. There is specialised people in these realms of mental health and everything else that do a wonderful job. So if, I feel like you have to pick your battles. And I know this sounds really raw, but I truly believe the people in the mental health arena are doing a wonderful job. You know, we're saving lives all the time, and there's a lot more help than there has been for many years. And I think I'm sort of stumbling through this, and maybe it's because it's raw to me, but my argument is about the notice of motion. And I don't believe that we should be using the money that people want us to place in our roads, in our rubbish, you know, in our rates, on something like this when it's already happening. There's already people doing wonderful jobs in this Blue Tree project. I've seen it, only just down the road from where I live. So I would love to see, I hope that something good comes out of this and a community group comes and forms, and then council can support them heavily. And that may be in different ways. But I feel that it has to be done the right way. I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
Sorry. Councillor Bingham.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'm going to speak in favour. So I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I'm not going to recite statistics, and I certainly didn't have a speech plan. And you know, I know there's a lot of passion in this room. It's an incredibly sad issue. But the reason why I'm supporting this is I didn't know what the Blue Tree project was, but it prompted me to ask the question, what is it? And ultimately, you know, that's where the conversations start. You know, I listen on the radios all the time with, you know, CFA, and there's a lot more than people realise. So it is incredibly sad, but and I see where the objectors are coming from, but I'll be supporting Councillor Ward's motion.
Thank you, Councillor Bingham. Any further people would like to speak? Councillor Tatchell.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. I'm not going to get into an argument about mental health because I don't think that's what's in front of us here. I think the report is going to discuss the mental health process if it gets through. What we're talking about here is a motion, and is this the right forum for the motion? It's not that I don't understand the mental health issues with people. I mean, I can tell you I had 42 kids in my dormitory when I was at school. 7 of them committed suicide out of 42. There's not very good odds. And probably for the last 30 years I've worked with a lot of grown men that have had these issues and explain to them that you don't have to be a victim for life, but you certainly need to appreciate the fact that you have a life. And so it goes back to the forum and why it's here. I mean, I commend the Councillor Ward's passion for this, and I think it should have been brought through the Health and Wellbeing Committee or brought through a committee project or a communal project where, you know, we've seen the Mirrabul News 2 weeks ago where they talked about the Blue Tree over there, and it was basically the community had done, the council had no involvement. So what we're basically asking is to put aside some council officers to give us a report on something that's already in place, where it'd be just as easy to ring the organisers of the Blue Tree organisation and say, right, we want to do it in our shire, and you don't have to do it at council meeting. What you do is you deal with the people you deal with every day. And so would you like to get involved in this project, and we'll put a Blue Tree together, or we'll do whatever and try and make this place a better place. And anyone who's in this room as a councillor is trying to do that. We're in the people business. We're trying to make people's lives better. And sometimes it's not easy, but we also have to be conscious of what our forum is and stick to our knitting. This is not our core business. We're going to send an officer out to send back a report. It'll come back to council. It all takes time, all takes money. And I'm sure that's not what the ratepayers are paying for. But the project itself is brilliant. I just think it's come through on the wrong vehicle. And I think it should have been taken to a couple of committees, talk to some people in the towns and say, how do you feel about this? And let them drive it. And then maybe bring a motion back to council for a tin of paint or whatever it costs to make these things happen. But let the community be involved in this. I think what we're doing is, as Councillor Minari always says, we're getting out of our lane. And we're not playing in the world that we've been positioned to play in. I'm employed by the people that voted me in, not by this council. And I don't respond to this council, I respond to those people. This is exactly that. So I got nothing against the project, Councillor Ward, and I commend your passion for it, but I'm just saying this is the wrong place. I think there's a better way of doing this and we get a better result. You don't put bureaucracy into mental health. What you do is you put resources. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Keogh.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I long for the day when council had the responsibility of the 3 Rs and only a minor role in community health and wellbeing. However, Mr Mayor, I am a practising councillor in the second quarter of the 21st century and realise if council don't take up the cudgels on this matter, no one else will. If the Blue Tree procedure can help save the life of one tortured soul's life from suicide, I believe it is worthwhile. I also point out that the notice of motion is only calling for a report on the matter, not for its implementation. So, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. We have a mover in Councillor Ward and a seconder in Councillor Freeman. Councillor Ward, I'll let you wrap up before we get to that.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I need a mental health break after that.
Sorry, mate.
I suppose I was a little bit taken aback by the debate, Mr Mayor. And I suppose I just want to use this opportunity just to talk about some of the arguments put up against the notice of motion. And I acknowledge that, again, in Councillor Minari's case, she supported the concept of a blue tree and there's one near her place, and that's wonderful. So he wasn't aware of that. But I don't think there's any suggestion in here that a blue tree project in Moorabool would come at the cost of roads, roads or rubbish. There's no suggestion this will cost us money. It may be as simple as advertising, saying we are interested in talking to local artists who may be interested in this project. Bang, done. And I suppose I've just had a reread of my notice of motion. I'm taken aback by any suggestion that my notice of motion has belittled Moorabool Shire Council to say that we're not doing enough. Absolutely far from it. I am passionate about the health and wellbeing policy and I've read it. But I point out that those 3 pages of ideas and those 3 pages in that policy for mental health all come from thought bubbles. They all come from somewhere. So I strongly refute, and I'm quite offended by any suggestion I was belittling what we're doing. I don't know how that could be inferred. I've just reread it. It does not presume that we don't care. That's ridiculous. And it does not presume, it doesn't presume that in any way that we don't care, and that it should not be implied that we don't care. I commend the 3 pages of policies in our health and wellbeing policy, but if we can add another successful initiative to that at no cost to council, then that should be explored. And the report may be that we're going to run an ad and we're going to see if anyone's interested. Bang, done. So I urge my fellow councillors to support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. So we have a mover in Councillor Ward, a seconder in Councillor Freeman. All those in favour? Carried.
Division.
All those in favour? Councillor Keogh, Councillor Bingham, Councillor Freeman, Councillor Ward and Councillor Venditti Taylor. All those against? Councillor Minari, Councillor Tatchell, Councillor Sullivan.
I didn't get a chance to vote.
Okay.
So, with respect to that, I think these obnoxious divisions, when you don't get a chance to vote.
Okay.
I think we need to rethink.
Moving along, 16.2, notice of motion number 350, Moorabool Shire Council Tracks and Trails Strategy. Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I originally put up this notice of motion 5 years ago, and unfortunately it was lost by a vote back then, and I do think that's 5 years of lost opportunity. In reading the Rec and Leisure strategy, it was quite apparent to me that those that responded, and we had a high number of respondents, 37% their most popular physical activity was walking, there was running and jogging, there was bushwalking, cycling and riding. In total, 57% of the respondents preferred physical activity that was non-organised sports that involved the use of tracks and trails effectively through those sort of activities. Further, the Australian Government's participation survey, AusPlay, reinforced that 46% of people preferred walking, jogging and running 19%, cycling 16%. So the Rec and Leisure strategy, there's 3 volumes of it.
It hasn't been moved yet. There's no second. The debate's occurring.
You want to move it?
Yeah.
You got a seconder?
I was warming up, Tom.
Continue.
I'll just pick up. I'm not going to restart. So am I speaking in favour of it now?
You are.
Yeah, I am.
Yep. Yep. Is there any objections? A question? Yep.
A question, sorry, before we go any further. I just wanted to ask a question to the Mayor. The last notice of motion and this notice of motion, I'm just aware that I've just sort of now realised that we've never had a chance in our briefings to discuss this or ask any questions.
Yeah, we did.
It was brought up with the notice of motion and there were questions asked around it. I don't think you were present the day of the first briefing. So all councillors were asked if they wanted to comment on it and no one did. And councillors, with respect to Councillor Sullivan, he wasn't there either.
I'm not aware that I've missed briefings, but anyway.
Continue? Yep.
I suppose, do we need to debate it unless it's against Jack?
Yeah. You're objecting, yeah.
I suppose. Okay.
Oppose.
Yeah. So I suppose just picking up Councillor Minari's point, yeah, this was discussed at a briefing and I also distributed about 3 weeks ago and I did ask councillors to review it and give me a buzz. Anyway, so coming off the back of the Rec and Leisure strategy, I was pleased to see the results strongly were in favour of a tracks and trail strategy. But I don't think it went far enough in that it requested that we move to formalise a tracks and trails or hike and bike strategy. Now, I know I can't move that tonight, but in asking for this report, I think that there is enough grounds in the Rec and Leisure strategy for us to explore that. The 4 common themes came out in volume 1 in the strategy, 2 of which were connectivity of the trail network throughout the Shire and improved wayfinding and informal physical activity opportunities. I quoted the stats about the most popular pursuits, which reinforced the need for, in my mind, a track and trail strategy. But that was further underpinned by those that said activities they would like to do but are not currently doing. 32% cycle bike, 30% bushwalking, 10% running, jogging, 72%. Strategic priority 2 was to identify priority projects for advocacy. 2.4 was improve and connect the existing trail networks and bike paths to meet the needs of a variety of users. 2.4.1, develop relationships with local communities and work with partners.
Order, can we just do a preamble, move it, second it, debate it?
Mr Mayor, I'm in your hands.
You nearly finished?
Well, you've had 3 minutes. A preamble.
We haven't really been timing. Just give it a summary.
Yeah, so the last part of the background report suggested in the 2014 strategy had been retired and there were 124 projects listed from the 2014 strategy that were listed as complete, incomplete or superseded. It didn't report on gaps or opportunities, such as we've discussed previously the Bungaree Rail Trail. There was no mention or confirmation in my mind of what's next. So putting this notice of motion up, I'm very much in favour of making sure that we go down the path of doing this because it's further underpinned by our visitor economy strategy. And our visitor economy strategy is very strong in asking us to formalise and do something more formal in the tracks and trails, hike and bike strategy area, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just don't think this is the way we should be doing business. More recently, we've had 3 significant documents, Council, the open space strategy, sustainability environment strategy, and the Moorabool Recreation Leisure Strategy. 2025 to 2030, all three of those documents, we've been through an exhaustive process to get to that point. The ink is hardly dry on that document, and now we have a motion to actually determine that some of those things are perhaps not as significant as this, and we're going to upset that whole process. So where do we sit? Do we either stand by these documents in their entirety? We went through an exhaustive process to get there, and now all of a sudden we throw that out and we want to pick a winner. Is that how we're going to do business? I don't think it is. I thought that we were sort of we want to be professional, we want to project an image and do things in a logical way, not just sort of pick stuff out of right field, left field, and then slot it in. So I don't think that's how we should do it. We go through these strategies. We had consultants in some cases, officers work diligently to finalise these strategies and documents, and now all of a sudden, well, throw it out, we'll do something else. Is that how? I don't think we should. I think it's a process issue here, and I don't think we should be doing it in this fashion. That's all. Thank you.
Councillor Freeman.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I strongly support this motion. This motion is not a commitment to immediate expenditure on new infrastructure. It is a prudent and responsible request for officers to prepare a feasibility report outlining what a contemporary tracks and trails strategy would involve and how it could be delivered in a structured, evidence-based way. In a period of significant growth and change for our Shire, that is exactly the type of strategic planning our community expects of us. Moorabool's geographic position is unique. We sit between major regional centres and alongside rapidly expanding growth corridors. With substantial population increases projected both within our boundaries and along them, it is incumbent upon us to plan proactively, not reactively. The anticipated growth in family-aged cohorts, particularly in the 35 to 44 age groups, further reinforces the importance of accessible, flexible and affordable recreation opportunities. The data presented in the Moorabool Recreation and Leisure Strategy 2025 to 2035 clearly shows that the most popular physical activities among our residents are walking, running, bushwalking and cycling. Collectively, these informal trail-based activities represent the majority of preferred participation. These findings are also consistent with statewide participation trends identified through AusPlay data in Victoria. Importantly, our previous hike and bike strategy dates back to 2014. While it serves its purpose at the time, it is now outdated and does not reflect our current population profile, growth areas, community expectations, or contemporary standards in accessibility, connectivity and safety. Community feedback gathered during the development of the MRLS identified clear concerns: lack of connectivity, condition issues, limited circuits, insufficient shade and seating, signage gaps and safety considerations. The MRLS itself already points to the need for a comprehensive audit of trails and improved network connectivity. This notice of motion simply asks us to take the logical next step, to examine the feasibility of developing a dedicated contemporary tracks and trails strategy that would audit and map existing assets, assess condition, connectivity and accessibility, identify missing links and future opportunities, clarify land management and stakeholder responsibilities, align programming and activation opportunities, provide clear prioritisation for future investment. Some may raise concerns about cost or competing priorities. However, failing to plan is often more costly in the long term. Without a clear strategic framework, we risk fragmented investment, reactive maintenance, missed grant opportunities and infrastructure that does not meet community need. A feasibility report allows us to understand scope, staging, resource implications and partnership opportunities before committing further. A well-developed tracks and trails strategy would also strengthen our ability to promote preventive health and wellbeing, support active transport options, encourage social connection and community cohesion, enhance tourism and local
Point of
economic
order, Mr Mayor.
activity.
Just to summarise.
Hang on, I've got a point of order.
Yeah, it's your point of order.
My point of order is that the motion put forward by councillor Ward and seconded by councillor Freeman, what's occurring now is directing what they want out of that report. That's not what this motion's about.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm not saying we are going to get all of that, but this is what can come out of it. So may I please continue?
Yeah, I'll probably just leave it at that, councillor Freeman. Thank you.
Just finish the last sentence?
Yeah, if it's summarising.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, to summarise it. I'm not doing what I like. Well, what you're doing now is questioning me, and I'm sitting here doing my job. That's it.
Can I have a governance rule if I can ask to just finish my last portion, the last sentence? Thank you.
Through the chair, this is the chairperson's ruling. The governance rules actually state time allowed as well, and I think we're all exceeding the time limits as well. So in terms of a point of order, I think it's valid from a time perspective, which allows 3 minutes. The mover's allowed 5, by the way.
Another question, please. My understanding is that in previous meetings, councillors have been afforded some flexibility. I'm simply asking that the same standard be applied consistently.
If we like, we'll run the clock from the next meeting to be clear in it, and then we'll do it from the next meeting. All right, moving along. Would anyone like to speak any further? Councillor Kerr.
With the community and visitor popularity of our walking and cycle tracks, I wrongly assumed that council was in possession of a current tracks and trails strategy. An up-to-date strategy is also a vital part of developing our tourist industry. It is essential for council to maximise its rate dollar as efficiently as possible, as we would all agree. A strategic planning report will fulfil these needs, which we currently appear not to have, and it needs to be addressed. I must also emphasise that this notice of motion only calls for a report on the matter and will flush out if we need to update our current strategy, as Councillor Sullivan has pointed out. I commend Councillor Ward for his notice of motion. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Anyone else would like to speak? Councillor Minari.
Thank you. I'm having deja vu moment. I just feel like we continually double up on reports or double up on work that the officers have either done or are doing. I've had a gutful of reports that cost ratepayer money and they don't know about it. They don't know about how much it costs because we still haven't had a cost that we've asked for. So I'm done.
Thank you. Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, I've had a gutful of arguing too. I suppose from my perspective, I just want to again correct some comments there. I've got an understanding of what the costs of these reports are, and I've also got an understanding of what grants are available to cover the costs. I've also got an understanding of what the cost of not doing it is. A tracks and trails strategy, if it's done, does not supersede, and it certainly does not throw out a rec and leisure strategy. The rec and leisure strategy highlighted the need for a tracks and trails or hike and bike strategy. The open space strategy does not get thrown out. So it's not a process issue. Based on the information that came out of those two documents, it's highlighted the need. And our ratepayers have said they want to do this, 56%. What the rec and leisure strategy also highlighted is there's absolutely no clarity whatsoever on where the maintenance and the management of our tracks and trails done. Some sit on council-owned land, some sits on Southern Rural Waterland, some sits on Deaker land, some sits on Melbourne Waterland. So if there's a flood and it gets washed away, who fixes it? We don't know, because we don't have a policy. Our visitor economy strategy. Let me just wrap this up quickly. We're not throwing policies out. Our visitor economy strategy, Bald Hill Activation Plan, highlights the range of opportunities, mountain bike trails, all abilities walking trails, Aqualink. The network of paths will be developed to better provide access to the town's main attractions and services. Our strategic considerations, develop and promotion of hero attractions. Council's role is to provide foundations for a successful visitor economy. This includes the infrastructure. And most importantly, we've all signed off on this. There's 6 themes that came out of this, Mr Mayor. Theme 4, nature and outdoors, priority projects, trail investment master plan. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. We have a mover in Councillor Ward and a seconder in Councillor Freeman. All those in favour? Carried.
Vision.
But with respect, how can you call it a division when you don't ask what people vote for?
Within the division in the governance rules, you have the opportunity to change your mind when you stand up, from what I've read.
Yeah, but normally
Like
they
at
say
the
who's
end of the
against.
day, there's
How
nothing.
do you know who's against?
It's pretty much similar to a notice of motion. There's not too much you can do as the chair, and as calling division, there's not too much I can do with that as well.
Well, I'm not getting involved.
So,
You
yeah.
don't censor me.
Councillor Ward, Councillor Freeman, Councillor Bingham, Councillor Kerr, Councillor Vendetti Taylor in favour. All those against? Councillor Sullivan, Councillor Minari, and Councillor Tatchell abstains. We have no notices of rescission. Moving along, the Mayor's report. I move that. Mover for that.
I've got a question, Mr Mayor.
Yeah, go.
The first time I've ever asked a question of the Mayor's report, but something that caught my eye. 23rd of February, he had a meet and greet with Superintendent Troy Hargadon, which is great that he's going out meeting councils. My question is, were some of the priorities highlighted for our council, and what came of that discussion?
He's new to the position. I'll probably, do you want to speak on that behalf? He's new to the position, and it was mainly just a meet and greet.
Through the chair, and it was very much a meet and greet, but we did go through a number of programs we run here, and we also went through the CCTV with him. So we went through a number of programs. He gave us some information around where he would like to focus and where he's seen some issues across the shire. And so, but it was very much a meet and greet. He's only new to the area, and he's based in Ballarat, but is coming to Bacchus Marsh about 1 day a week, I think he said.
Yeah, thanks. So, subsequent, Mr Mayor, so what was the main focus of this area, this municipality? What is it? What's he going to focus on?
Through the chair, I suppose it's around crime. So I'm happy to have a briefing with the councillors on that at a separate session.
Thank you.
So, Councillor Bingham, mover, seconder.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Following on from Councillor Bingham, this Superintendent Harradon, does he cover the whole of this shire?
See, yeah.
Through the chair, not just the shire, it's a region. It's a very, very large region he has. So he has Ballarat and everything else.
Thank you.
I guess I want to second that. Councillor Freeman. All in favour? Carried. Councillor's report. Councillor Sullivan, anything to report?
My report has been sent into the organisation, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Sullivan. Councillor Kerr?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I've put in a written report on all the things that I went to during the month, but I'd also like to make a shout out to the opening of the basketball teaching stadium, as I'll call it, that I was there on Saturday when it opened. It's a stadium for teaching children how to play basketball, and the good news is that all children are free on Wednesdays. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Keogh. Councillor Tatchell.
No, I've got nothing to report.
Thank you, councillor Tatchell. Councillor Minari.
I've submitted my report, nothing to report. Thanks.
Thank you, councillor Minari. Councillor Bingham.
Nothing to report, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Freeman.
Nothing to report, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ward.
Just one item, Mr Mayor. I'd just like to invite the residents who may be watching. Next Saturday, the 14th of March, we're hosting a coffee with the councillor session at the Degani Cafe at the Village in Bacchus Marsh from 10 to 12. So any resident has anything they wish to talk to their local councillors about, please come on down and we'll shout you a coffee and have a chat. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor, any urgent business? Councillor Sullivan.
Not that I can think of.
Thanks, mate. It's good to have you back. Councillor Keogh.
No urgent business,
Thank you.
Mr Mayor.
Councillor Tatchell.
Just to check, I don't think we can do urgent business when we're missing a councillor, is that correct?
No?
Well, let's do the process anyway, we wasted half the night.
Through the chair, no, we can't. So,
Okay.
yes, there's no need to actually ask
No
councillors.
worries. We'll move along. All right, I move to adjourn the meeting. Can I have a councillor move that for 5 minutes? A councillor? Councillor Ward. Seconder? Councillor Freeman. All in favour? Carried. Thank you. I get someone to move to resume. Get a seconder. Councillor Tatchell. All in favour? Thank you. Carried. Council move to go into closed session. Can I get someone to move it? Councillor Ward. Seconder. Councillor Tatchell. All in favour? Thank you. Carried.